Hey guys, this is Illusion Podfics, and we're back with Spider-Man Reborn by Careerin. This is Chapter 5. Peter has finally mastered speech. Sort of. He can talk in single-worded replies, but it was enough. He could somewhat copy the words everyone says around him. Unfortunately, that led to them avoiding any vigilante talk when he was in the room. Peter was able to rely on those conversations to grow a sense of the world outside of the manor. A view of what he will face when he was old enough to join his family in the streets. Now, Peter was left in the dark. Now, he could only practice. Jason. Come on, Pete. Jason started to monopolize Peter's time since his first word. After accidentally saying dada, Peter has managed a few more simple words with the increasing frequency. Ick. Clapping his hands, Peter could only smile as Jason's head dropped to the carpet with a groan. In retaliation to losing the intel, Peter decided to refuse to say the words and names they wanted him to learn. It was more fun this way, in Peter's humble opinion. Especially while pronouncing some consonants was still difficult for him. He remembers how to talk from before, so it was just a matter of training himself to replicate them again. It helped that everyone was spending more time repeating words to him. Jason. Ick. Peter giggled after poking Jason's nose. He needed the practice, but how many chances will he have to mess with his brothers without retaliation? They'll get used to it eventually. The library doors opened, and Peter nearly fell trying to look behind him. Jason's hands caught him before pulling him onto his lap just as his dad entered the room. How are things in here, J-Lad? His dad walked inside, carrying a manila folder. Peter watched him take a seat on the couch nearby. Peter's not saying my name. Give him time, Jay. He only just started to talk. His dad smiled at them while turning to his folder. Peter wondered if it was a case for Batman or if it was civilian work. Dada! Squealing, Peter reached towards his father, the curiosity nipping at his mind. Jason handed him off to his dad before joining them on the couch. Peter whined when the file was tossed aside. He wanted to see it. Instead, Jason grabbed the forgotten book from the floor, which his dad took. Brightly colored cartoon animals stared up at Peter. Peter watched his dad open the book to the first page. A smiling alligator looked up at him. Without the ridges, he sort of looked like Dr. Connors as the lizard. A is for alligator. His dad sounded out the word softly, his thumb soothing a line on Peter's arm. Jason had already spent time getting Peter to repeat those words, and Peter refused to be stuck doing it again so soon. Shit. Peter beamed at his dad, the only word he's managed to confidently replicate from Dick earlier today. He squealed louder at his dad's face. These next few months will be fun. J-Lad? I didn't teach him that, Jason argued, his arms crossing in defense. He didn't, but Peter couldn't exactly explain that. His dad attempted to lecture his brother, which Peter interrupted with various vocalizations. It was the best he could do as an apology for the blame landing on him. Based off of Jason's smile, he understood. Fuck! Dick yelped, hopping on one foot before spotting Peter on the carpet. Shit! No, wait! Fuck! Dick fell back on the ground with a large groan, murmuring to himself quietly as Peter landed. His brother had been reaching for a box on one of the higher shelves in the boring room, and it fell on his foot. He wasn't sure how Dick couldn't catch it after being a vigilante for some time. Nonetheless, Dick missed it by an inch and felt it land painfully, hence the cursing. Peter wasn't sure how Jason got the blame when both boys cursed fairly regularly. It might have helped that Dick had left later in the day when Peter first cursed in his dad's presence. Peter, Pussad, please forget everything. Those are bad words. Terrible, wretched, absolutely awful, Dick begged, crawling towards him. Can you say bird? Or bat? Fuck! Peter will use this for as long as he possibly could. His dad's hum startled Peter as he just got onto his feet. Come here, chum. Peter walked to his dad's outstretched hand, finally confident with his feet under him. Dick was attempting to explain himself behind him, but Peter wasn't too bothered. Dick had it coming with all the interference. Peter couldn't relearn anything if he was constantly being stopped by his brothers. Dad led him back out before picking him up as they ascended the stairs. Peter, remember our talk? No bad words till you're 40, his dad reminded him, running calloused fingers over his hair. Peter grinned, resting his head on his dad's shoulder. No, Peter giggled at his dad's heavy sigh. Jason had carried him to the library to read 2 hours ago, and Peter was ready for the next great escape. They've gone through all his books, and even drew a little, though Peter's drawings were either lines and zigzags or just furious coloring. He never really liked art before either, so the test was merely dexterity practice. Something was different today, and Peter hasn't figured out what just yet. They're ready. Dick poked his head in the side, grinning from ear to ear. Go? Peter perked up at the chance to leave. Jason laughed, watching Peter carefully as he wiggled off the couch. Yeah, time to go. Together, the 3 brothers went down the hall. Peter held onto their hands, hopping between them. They went towards the back door that led to the garden. Peter liked the garden with the bushes that looked like animals and the open space to play. This time, the garden wasn't as open as before. A couple of picnic tables were out with food and plates set up. People milled around outside, and his parents stood in the front. As Peter was led towards them, everybody's attention went to him. Happy birthday! Everyone yelled, clapping and cheering afterwards. Peter stared wide-eyed at it all. So many people. Happy birthday, chum. His dad knelt in front of him, smiling down. Happy first birthday, kitten. His mom joined his dad, taking Peter's cheek in hand and kissing his other one. Wow, all of this? For me? Dick laughed from behind him. Jason sniggered too, both losing all composure when their dad turned to look at them. You've met some of them already, Kit. His mom picked him up, both parents taking him into the swarm. Peter tried to cling to Barbara when he was lowered to her lap so that he could hug her. There were too many people here, and Peter did not want to be passed around all of them. He hasn't seen so many people in one place since before. Peter didn't feel ready to meet them. Not a fan, chickadee? Barbara teased, tugging on a curl. No fan. Peter shrugged. He appreciated the party, but he wasn't sure about the crowd. That's okay. Everyone here is super nice. Peter tugged at her hair in retaliation, especially when she passed him back to his mom. He definitely did not like being passed around like a doll. Mr. Kent and his wife were here too. Peter had moved on pretty quickly from them as more people came to greet them. His parents took him to meet nearly everyone here. Mr. Oliver Queen and his wife were there with a few of their friends. The man was nice, but he didn't seem to know what to do with Peter. His wife was nicer and talked science with his dad for a minute. Peter relished the chance to listen to a science conversation again. Mr. Barry Allen was fun. He made a lot of jokes and had Peter laughing a lot before he was carted off to the next person. Miss Diana Prince was cool. She reminded Peter of Natasha a little. She treated Peter like an adult and shook his hand in greeting. He decided he liked Miss Prince, second to Miss Smoke. Peter would have hidden behind a bush to sleep in if it wasn't for the cake. His parents helped him blow out the candles, and everyone cheered for him. He felt more comfortable now, knowing who was who, though he would have preferred something much smaller. His memories from before were still there, old memories of small parties in a small apartment filled to the brim with love. He could never imagine such a large party with so much love still present, even if that love mostly came from his family. The others were just as gentle and caring towards him. It was strange to remember his past life with this one opening up before him. seeing a party that Mr. Stark would have once called small by his standards to be held in Peter's honor. The cake was half chocolate, half vanilla, and Peter managed to convince his parents for a slice of both flavors. They were suspiciously smaller slices than everyone else's, especially when he spotted Mr. Allen and his friends with their plates. The party eventually winded down. Peter had found a few minutes to hide behind a hedge and sleep until Mr. Kent found him. He was starting to suspect the man to have some sixth senses, too, after finding him again. When he was led back to his parents, Peter noted the smaller crowd. Only a few people were left, and it sounded like they were readying to leave too. Peter was dragged into saying their goodbyes with his brother before his family were the only ones left in the garden. Peter was then led to a table full of presents: baby blue, sunshine yellow, vibrant red, even seafoam green. There were so many colors and different sizes of boxes. Clearly, they were all for him. A sight overwhelmed him in the moment. So many gifts for him? He had never seen so many presents that weren't around a mall's Christmas tree. Which one do you want to open first, chum? Peter pointed towards the one Dick was so obviously pointing out. His mom laughed at his brother's obvious antics, while his dad brought the gift to Peter's level. He dropped to sit on the grass, his family joining him. The wrapping was black, with dark blue bird silhouettes. Jason made a comment on it that Peter ignored, focusing on carefully opening the package. Everyone waited till he opened the box. A little duck stuffed animal sat inside. Peter gasped, pulling it out excitedly. The duck was so fluffy, as opposed to real ducks. The faux fur in place of feathers. The beady eyes had little white yarn for pupils, and its wings flapped when Peter shook it. "What you think, boys, Dad?" Dick grinned, leaning forward. "Quack!" Peter lifted the duck towards Dick, who nodded sagely. "Exactly. Quack." Peter's next present had been from Jason. No one pretended that they didn't know which gift they were bringing to him anymore. Jason's present was the little books about science for kids. Biology and chemistry. Peter had hugged Jason for them. He'd been so worried about having to relearn everything on his own. His family had their own interests, but none of them liked science as much as Peter does. His dad had gotten him a hooded blanket after getting some help. Peter was wrapped in a black cloak with the hood over his head, little bat ears sticking out from above that wiggled when he shook his head. Peter hugged his dad too, after figuring out how to move without tripping in it. His mom had gotten him a twine bracelet with a little cat charm on it. She helped put it on his wrist while he sat comfortably wrapped in his new blanket with his duck. The other presents were just as amazing. Someone got him a bow and arrow set, something his dad said he couldn't play with until he was older. Peter remembered learning from Hawkeye before. He got a rustic shield with Greek letters along the side from someone else. He was given a photo album of his family through the years with a few new ones, including Peter in them. There were hundreds more. At least, Peter thought that at a simple glance over the table. He was ready for a nap, though, and had just managed to end the gift unveiling early for it. Dick and Jason stayed to help Alfred with the cleanup, while Peter was carried inside by his dad. His mom's hand rested on his head the whole way. "I love you, chum. Good night," his dad whispered, wrapping Peter in his new blanket. "Good night, kitten. Sweet dreams." By 2 years old, Peter had graduated from baby gates. This may have been due to Peter's tendency to break out of them easily, until his dad somehow found a gate that required your fingerprint scan to unlock them. That had been a terrible month, up until Peter managed to climb over it. Now, he can mostly walk up and down the stairs without help, though his parents and siblings hovered constantly when he tried. Dick was out of the manor more, but still made time to visit him on the weekends. His mom would also leave on occasion, and both of them have accepted the constant phone calls Peter demanded of them. He continued to hate when someone left for too long a time. The curse of Parker luck hung over his head constantly, and Peter did not want to see when it would strike. Jason had started hiding in his room more often, too. Peter had to bang on the door to get his brother's attention, and half the time, it would go ignored. His dad would sometimes have to carry Peter away when Jason refused to open the door. "Jay!" Peter yelled, banging on the door. His duck, Quack, was tucked under his arm with a book abandoned on the floor. Logically, he knew Jason was going through something. He was a teenager and full of angst by now. Peter just wished he could help him. There was next to nothing he could do other than provide a distraction for some time. Jason wouldn't share his burdens to Peter, and he didn't seem to share with their dad either. "Master Peter, perhaps I may be of some assistance." Alfred came to stand just behind him. Seriously, the man has to be a god or something. "Want a weed?" Peter grabbed the book, showing it off to Alfred. The older man took the book gently, reading the cover. "Then allow me to read it to you. Master Jason may not feel up to the task at the moment." "Why?" "I'm afraid I do not know." "Why?" Alfred knows everything. Peter was sure he knew something about Jason. "Despite popular belief, Master Peter, I do not know everything." Alfred smiled now, a knowing glint in his eyes. "Why? Liar, you know everything, or you can read minds. And that's the same thing." "Perhaps we can carry this conversation elsewhere. Come with me, Master Peter." Alfred took the book and started walking down the hall, trusting Peter to follow. Peter eyed Jason's door again before sighing. He couldn't break into the room since his mom hadn't started teaching him to lockpick yet. He could probably figure it out, but he kind of wanted to learn from her. With a final glance to the door, Peter rushed after Alfred. They sat down to the kitchen where Alfred had placed a glass of milk and some cookies for him. Peter immediately climbed into a chair before practically sitting on the counter to take a cookie. He pretended to look outside when Alfred gave him the look. "Do you still wish to have this book read to you?" Peter imagined how Alfred would read the book, and he couldn't help but laugh. It would be funny to hear Alfred make voices for the characters, but he couldn't see him actually doing that. Even his dad didn't do voices, only changing his accent some of the time. "No, thank you." Peter took another cookie, nibbling on it while kicking his feet. He considered waiting for his mom to get back to read for him, or he could just look at the pictures until he gives up and tries to read the words on his own again. The smaller words were easier to decipher, but Peter still found himself having trouble. It was like he could see the words, but they didn't make sense yet, as if some kind of fog covered them just enough to disfigure the words. Unlike dyslexia, the letters stayed in place. It frustrated him that the words were so difficult to make out despite being right there. Alfred left the book on the counter before getting started on lunch. Peter watched him for a while before finishing his milk. He could practice being Spider-Man while he has the free time. If he can hurry up, he'll be ready to go out sooner. With a new goal in mind, Peter crawled off his chair and ran for the back door. The kitchen had a door leading to the backyard, which Peter took, ignoring Alfred's question in favor of reaching the garden. Outside, Peter moved further into the open field. The windows from the kitchen sink would be in view of the grass, so Alfred couldn't get mad at him again. Recalling how Dick flipped and cartwheeled in the boring room, Peter raised his own arms. He shifted his legs a little and turned. With a small breath, Peter tilted sideways as his hands touched the ground. He fell halfway through the cartwheel, rolling onto his stomach, before pushing himself back up. He ran through the steps 4 or 5 more times, falling before completing the move each time. "Damn it!" Peter huffed, kicking the grass. "Language," his dad's voice chastised, tiredly resigned. Peter had yet to give up on the cursing, if only to cause his family grief. They have all cursed in front of him at one point or another, so the blame could not fall on one specific person. Alfred might be the only one who hasn't taught Peter any bad habits. "Daddy!" Peter flung himself on his dad's legs, grinning up at him. "Did you see?" Peter stepped back as his dad crouched in front of him, the smallest twitch in his lips, a prominent sign that his dad wasn't too mad about the curse. "I did. Good job, chum." Let me help you, okay? Peter walked back to the field with his dad, following the gentle instructions. He felt his dad's hands hovering nearby as he went through the same steps. He nearly fell again, but large hands caught him, directing his body fully around to land on his feet. He bounced back up, grinning as he reached for his dad's hands excitedly. I did it! Sure, he needed help, but really, this was just the first step. If Peter said that enough, he can believe it. He's too small to protect his family right now, but he'll be ready soon enough. He just had to prepare. Take these few years to prepare and he'll be ready. He won't let Parker Luck take his family from him again. You did great, bud. His dad ruffled his hair, the smile larger in his face. Want to try again? Yeah. Stay close to me, Petey, Dick called before Peter could run for the trees. He groaned, turning away from the woods dejectedly. Dick and Barbara had chosen to take Peter to the park today. He wanted to explore everywhere. His parents weren't comfortable with him going into the city. They tried their best to keep him close to home, though eventually they would have to let him. Dick had convinced his dad to let Peter join their day out, and once he heard the plan, Peter refused to stay at home. The park was huge, a playground full of kids on one side with a small patch of forest on the other. The trees towered over Peter, and the urge to climb them had him vibrating in place. We both know you want to climb the trees, too. Go play with your brother, Barbara scoffed, her attention already back to her phone. Peter grinned from his spot near the woods. Barbara always sided with him when it came between Peter and Dick. Fine, but you're sticking close to me. Got it, Pete? Dick pointed a finger towards Peter, who could only nod rapidly before dragging the larger man towards the nearest tree. Dick had to help him reach the first branch, but Peter managed to climb the second one alone. He climbed further up, slipping past the little openings between the branches to reach higher. Dick followed closely behind, moving around the smaller openings to return to his spot just below Peter. It was obvious his brother was trying to catch Peter if he fell. Unfortunately for him, Peter remembered how to climb as easily as breathing. At least, the memory of it was fresh enough. Spider-Man could leap over a tree if he wanted to, but he always chose to climb anyway. It took a bit before he really felt comfortable, but once Peter was sure he couldn't fall, he didn't stop. He moved higher as the branches thinned out, leaving Dick behind when the tree's offshoots wouldn't hold his weight. Don't go too high, buddy, Dick called, settling on a branch below him. Okay. Peter climbed higher. He's gonna give me a heart attack, Barb. He's been doing that since he could crawl. Barbara laughed, holding her phone up to record them. Peter waved at the camera, grinning down at them. The tree shifted and shook, branches twirling and wrapping around the both of them as shouts cried out from the entire park. Ivy! Dick cursed, pushing at the branch wrapped tightly around him. Peter twisted from his own branches. They held on tighter. Ivy? Peter looked down, seeing Barbara on the phone as she pushed her wheelchair with her free arm. Keep an eye on Peter! Yeah, not going anywhere, Dick groaned, twisting around some more. How are you doing, buddy? I don't like the tree, Peter whined, hitting the branch in retaliation. The tree smacked his arm back, thus beginning Peter's first villain fight. Dick sighed from below as Peter and the tree started smacking each other. He wasn't sure he'd win against the tree. He could lift them before. This was just unfair. Two figures swung past them before the smaller of the two diverted from their path. Peter paused his own attack to watch the brightly colored Vigilante swing to their tree. The uniform was bright. Bright red, yellow, and green wrapped the robin as he landed at the bottom of the tree, smiling up at them. Comfortable up there? Yeah, doing great here. Pete's trying to take on the tree, so an evac would be great, Dick teased as Peter lost interest when a leaf tickled his cheek. He turned his attention back to the tree, pushing it away and reigniting their fight. He was not losing to a dumb branch. We'll have you two down soon. Just hold on, the Vigilante laughed, swinging away. Peter heard Dick grumble some choice words that would get Alfred's disappointed look. Peter and his branch had moved on to pushing each other around in the tree. The branch even moved away when he pushed. Maybe he was getting some strength back? Will it develop over time, maybe? He hadn't thought too much over his spider powers since none of them showed up in the past couple of years. He hoped to study the changes in the future. He shoved the tree back again, pouting when the branch only pushed him higher up. Meanie? Pete, buddy, darling little brother of mine, please stop trying to fight the tree. Dick tried, calling upwards as Peter kicked at the branch. Peter ignored the suggestion. He was winning, after all. The branch fell back a little, bringing Peter back towards the tree trunk a little more. The branch hit his leg just as Peter winded up for a punch. Ow! Bud? He grabbed the leaf, throwing it in the air with a huff. His leg stung a little, but Peter knew he could win this. Spider-Man never gave up, and he was not giving up to a tree. He pulled back for another punch before the tree let him go. Peter barely screamed before someone caught him, swinging to the ground. Peter blinked owlishly at the man. A black cowl covered his face. He even had little ears on his head. Kitty? Kitty! Pure gold. I'm so telling Catwoman. The brightly covered Vigilante cackled, landing beside them. Thank you, Batman. Dick jogged up to them from where the tree dropped him. Batman stared down at Peter for a second longer before passing him on. Peter studied the Vigilante, his mouth in a hard line. Daddy? Peter watched as the Vigilante swung away without answer. He knew his dad was a hero, but Batman? Soon he'll be Spider-Man. They could be the animal vigilantes together. That was Batman, buddy, Dick coughed, walking towards Barbara. She sat by the sidewalk, a laptop opened on her lap. Let's get you home. Alfred will want to check your leg. Daddy! Peter whined. He could recognize his own dad. He shouldn't say it out loud, but no one was around to overhear. His own brother could just agree with him. Didn't anyone tell Dick it was rude to gaslight baby brothers? Dick ignored him, choosing to help Barbara get into the van after buckling Peter in his seat. Barbara had to push his hand away from poking the cut on his leg as she tried to clean it while Dick drove. At least, when they got back, Peter could tell his dad how he helped. Maybe he'll be so impressed that he'll train Peter. Though, he'd have to survive Alfred's look of disapproval first. I stopped the tree, Peter huffed when Dick and Barbara only laughed at him. He flinched when Alfred wiped his cut again, the stinging feel of antiseptic unpleasant on the open wound. So I hear. That was very reckless, Master Peter, Alfred lectured. You fought a tree? His dad came in, followed by a smiling Jason. Uh-huh, Peter grinned, nearly hopping out of the chair before Alfred gently pushed him back. I did! You saw! His dad hummed, moving a chair to sit beside him. I wasn't at the park, chum. You were. The kitty. Remember? Peter pouted when his dad only smiled at him. A cat, you say? His dad leaned back, his fingers pinching his chin in thought. I don't think I've heard of Catwoman showing up in the news. Are you sure? Traitors. All of them. Peter knew what he saw, but maybe he should let them think they won. Maybe then he can show them he can keep a secret as opposed to blabbing. Being a vigilante is a life full of secrets, after all. He just has to prove himself. Catman. Peter nodded sagely at his dad's lie. He ignored his cackling brothers since his dad had a smile on his face. Peter beamed back. He can keep the secret. Catman? Selena laughed, brushing her hair by the vanity. Bruce sighed as he heavily sat on the bed. When Barbara had called him about poison ivy at the park where she and Dick had taken Peter to, he nearly broke the Bat computer in his rush. He and Robin made it in time, but Peter had still got hurt, even if it was from fighting a tree. His son fought a tree at 2 years old. Peter fought a tree. Don't look at me. This is all you, Bat. Selena dropped the brush, turning to face him. Peter is safest with us, but he is not allowed to dress up as a target. He fought a tree. Yes, I blame you, she sighed, joining him on the bed. He'll be fine. Dick says it's more of a cat fight than anything. He's been looking for trouble since he could crawl. We'll just have to keep a close eye on him. Bruce sighed, staring at his hands. His son had his genes, that's for sure. He couldn't stop the small twitch in his lips at the image of little Pete fighting the tree branch. His kid had spunk, that's for sure. Alright, and that is the end of Chapter 5 of Spider-Man Reborn by Kuririn. I'll see you in the next chapter.